Now for a closer look, what's playing itself out in that market scene is Gary Booysen from Rand Swiss. Gary, a pleasure and a happy Monday to you.
To you too. Looks like the market agrees that it is a happy Monday and everything seems to be going up, which is great.
Absolutely, Gary. I must tell you, I am at a point where I am always keen to find out what is driving market participants. One of my fears is that the markets will run ahead of themselves again in terms of what the Fed might do, and then will lead to another correction there. But I'm just keen to get your thoughts on what we're seeing today.
It's a good question. So I think, it's not a particularly busy week from an economic front. I think we've had a lot of the big US data out and, markets, now drifting higher. I think the big earnings announcement that we're looking at this week is probably going to be aftermarket on Wednesday when NVIDIA reports. Obviously, NVIDIA has done, I think, a lot of the heavy lifting around specifically the US market running higher. Everyone's very, very excited about, obviously AI and their chip rollout. So if there's anything that could derail the optimism, it's going to be a weak update there. But yeah, I've kind of read the expectations and really, I think the only thing that I can really see is that people are thinking that, if it hits $1,000 a share, we might get a stock split, but that's not going to impact kind of underlying valuations at all. And I think everyone's looking now probably what is the next big chip that they're going to release? What are the plans for the company going forward? But on the local front, it's been a busy day in terms of news. We've had, the likes of famous brands, Astral, Baldwin, Netcare, all reporting as well. So it's been quite busy. It's kind of quite a mixed bag, but I don't know. Everyone maybe just looking ahead to elections as well, obviously middle of next week.
I must ask you also just the strength the Rand is enjoying right now. Is that dollar weakness, or is it also, the prospect of SA really having a fair, clean election and even better, a stable outcome, Gary?
Well, I think it's a little bit of both. It's always going to be a composite. I mean, that's what a financial market price is after all. It's it's all the expectations, both domestic and international, all factored into one number. And that is the currency. So I think locally, yes, I think people are more optimistic on, certainly market participants are more optimistic on a favorable election outcome. Of course, we still have to go through elections, so there's still a risk premium attached to that as well. And I do think you can see that in the strength the Rand has had compared to other emerging market peers. It's one of the few emerging market currencies. I think it's within the top 5 this year. So looking very, very strong compared to peers, which is unusual. But then, of course, we have had, as you can see again today, the resource index lifting. Part of this is absolutely dollar weakness, and you can see that in the gold price. So gold price hitting looks like record highs again today, and that's why you're seeing that resource index today up as much as it is. So if I look at the counters that are really pushing things higher, it's like those gold fields up 5.2%, Anglo Gold up 3.3%, Harmony up 3%, Amplat's up almost 3%. So it's a lot of the precious metal miners, and this is not being driven by the likes of Anglo and Billiton, for example, so or at least BHP, showing my age there. But it's definitely, I think the Rand is very, very linked to the fortunes of commodities. We're still a commodity-based economy, and so rising commodity prices, that's obviously going to boost the currency as well. If I look at the US dollar Rand exchange rate at the moment, we're trading 18.19, which I think I put my neck on a block. In our quarterly update and said, if you see 18.27, that's when you should pull the trigger and go long dollars. So we're slightly below that at the moment. We'll see how that trade plans out.
Brilliant, Gary. I actually want to ask you, you mentioned Amplats, and I want to talk about that a little bit. We know that, doesn't matter what happens with Anglos, Amplats is on the chopping board a little bit. I'm just keen to get your thoughts on this as an asset. Who could possibly buy Amplats? And then the appetite for this kind of asset right now. People are looking for copper. People are looking for something way more green than PGMs. Just the future of this business.
Good question. I'd like to get the answer to that myself. So remember, if you look at probably the best place to go and understand the platinum market is the Johnson Matthey reports. And if you go and look at it, autocatalytic converters still make up the vast majority of platinum demand. A lot of that autocatalytic converter demand is also recyclable as well. You can recycle platinum in a large degree. Now, platinum is a very useful metal. You use it in all sorts of things, medicine, and it's not just autocats. Unfortunately, the majority of the demand is autocats. And yes, kind of the swing is weirdly in like Japanese ETFs, where Japan ends up using platinum almost as a hedging metal. But overall, if we move away from an internal combustion engine to an EV future, platinum is going to be in far lower demand than it is now. And it's difficult to see where that demand is going to come from. It'll have to see a contraction in supply. You're going to have to see, the likes of Amplats and Parler, Sibanye to an extent as well, cutting back on production to be supportive of prices. That means new shafts are not going to be sunk. And platinum is a very difficult metal to mine as well. If you look at how it's mined as well, it's, kind of these thin seams that, guys have to get down, draw on, through the rock bed. It's incredibly difficult to mine as well. So it's expensive to mine as well. And you'd assume that the market is going to readjust. I mean, we're, in the longer term, a lot of these are trading on very, very low multiples, though. I think a lot of that risk is well understood by the market, and it is to an extent priced in. And I suppose my thesis around the unbundling of Amplats and Kumba, in the face of the potential merger between BHP and Anglo, was that you might get a little bit of a relief rally, because a lot of the banks are going to have to recall scrip. A lot of other people saying, no, Gary, that's crazy. If that's the case, if this transaction was to go through, there's going to be a huge overhang. I was kind of talking about short-term market mechanics there, saying that at the moment the banks are going to have to recall scrip, which should lift Amplats's price in the short term. But I suppose that's what makes a market. Everyone has a thesis, and that's why we have buyers and sellers at any price.
Absolutely, Gary. Gary, I want to get your stock pick in a bit, but first I'd actually like us to reflect on counters that have found favor with your industry peers.
Mine is Afrimat. So I attended the results presentation yesterday, and I walked away very bullish. I think important to note, when you buy Afrimat, I think a medium to long-term view is required, and earnings and a share price will not go up in a straight line. There will be periods where they will disappoint, because it's still a cyclical business, predominantly in resource, right? So, for example, iron ore will go up and down, but they are investing, in interesting projects. So, for example, in Komati, the Afrisite, they're finally starting to gain traction there, and there's still more to come. It's really 50% of profit. I think that's going to grow over time. And of course, what's been topical of late in the news is the Lafarge deal. Now, this is a business that's got excellent assets, but has been run into the ground by previous management and lack of investment from the shareholders. Now, considering Afrimat has got a very good track record of turning on businesses, I would be giving them the benefit of the doubt that, given them enough time and some capital, they will be able to extract a lot of synergy out of Lafarge. And at the same time, we're starting to see some building activity picking up in the infrastructure side. And they incidentally got it assets now, so I think they are going to benefit immensely from that.
My stock pick for today is Tencent. So if we looked at that recent 1Q results for Tencent, it was quite positive. And I think it's just generally looking quite undervalued at present. So we've seen pretty strong growth come from the high margin businesses such as advertisements and video accounts. And it was positive to see that this helped offset some of the weakness that came from the gaming sector. But I think, once we start to see further recovery in China and also in the gaming segment, that will definitely unlock more value for the company. And if we look at the valuation for now, it's looking quite attractive at a forward PE of just 17 times and a PEG ratio of 0.9 times, which shows that there's quite a bit of growth expected in there. So that's my stock pick.
All right, Gary, keen to get your thoughts on those, Afrimat and Tencent.
Yeah, I didn't really hear the thesis behind those. It was very mumbled. So Afrimat, obviously, I can just give you kind of a broader view, but Afrimat, obviously, a very popular stock, with many kind of small cap investors saying that it's not being valued correctly. It's obviously got the iron ore business. It's incredibly well run, and no one can really argue with the share price performance over the last couple of years. So, definitely a firm favorite. Seems to be well managed, and one of those kind of niche small gems. We don't hold it in portfolios for clients, but I think it's definitely, if you are a private client investor, or you are someone that can kind of like stomach the lower liquidity in the stock, absolutely something to have a look at.
With that said, which counter are you loving this afternoon?
I'm loving Nike this afternoon. So, looking at Nike, it's been in the doldrums for a while. So it's trading sub $100. We have a price target of just above $108 per share. It's a global stalwart. I think the Nike brand speaks for itself. One of the headwinds for the company recently has been, sales in China. I think, if you look at China this year, you're certainly seeing it in the markets, looking a lot better than it has for the last couple of years. We're starting to see the Chinese counters doing a lot better, but you're also seeing the Chinese consumer doing a little bit better as well. From a strategic point of view, I just like the way that Nike's going about protecting their brand, because their brand really is everything. It's, over the last 20, 30 years, that's what has allowed it to create that economic value for its investors. It's protecting that brand. And what they did a couple of years ago is they actually removed, the ability to retail Nike products from a lot of different consumers. For example, you can't buy a Nike brand on Amazon, for example. That allows them to have an enormous control over their brand message. And if you've got a strong brand and people understand who you are, and I can say Nike and just put, but I think every viewer watching this is going to know who Nike is. That's what I'm talking about. They can sell that directly to you. They don't need to go through this wholesale supply chain. And I think that is very, very exciting for the business, because they can capture value across the entire supply chain from manufacturing to sales without having to rely on these third-party wholesalers. So it's a fantastic business. It is potentially a little bit pricey. I mean, if you look on a 1 year forward, it's trading about 24 times earnings. But that is equivalent to the kind of athleisure sector. It's about equivalent to a Lululemon as well, and I believe it deserves that premium. So, like I said, trading kind of around $92 at the moment. Target price $108. That's well above what you're going to get anywhere else. So, happy to buy it.
Brilliant, Gary. An absolute pleasure having you join us this Monday afternoon. Thank you for your time. That was your Midday Markets Update with Rand Swiss's Gary Booysen.